Because yun na nga, I mean, may talo ito eh. Meron din po itong talo.
I think all investments may talo, may panalo. Right? All investments. Hindi naman lahat, whether it's Maharlika or whatever they're investing in now.
We will construe or interpret the legal provisions. Once it becomes a law, we're still in the lawmaking process. That's why this representation is pointing out that this is very difficult to understand, so we can still fix it, Mr. President. What if, for example, line 7, what is now, given the explanation of our sponsor, what is now the value of the phrase, "and without prejudice to additional subscription and payment"? If this talks about additional subscription, it does not make sense, Mr. President.
Yes, I guess we can, these are terms perhaps that are difficult, may not be clear. Basically, it's about utilizing their stock dividends to reinvest basically in the Maharlika, adding to the capitalization of Maharlika. It gives talking about that option. So we can change the language to make it, we're certainly, we're open to changing the language to make it more understandable, more clear.
Doesn't make any sense, di ba? Well, anyway, Mr. President, at least we have pointed out that paragraph which is impossible to understand as far as me and my staff are concerned. That's our limitation, Mr. President. But the next paragraph is the one which I think is controversial. Ito yata po yung that no GOCC providing for social security of the government employees and the private sector employees shall, mentioning also the GSIS social security system and then the Home Development Mutual Fund. This is the Pag-ibig Fund, no? The rule is they should not be requested or required to contribute to the MIC. But yet in the interpellation, I think the position of the sponsor is if their boards want to, they should be allowed.
I didn't say they should. They're not prevented from investing in Maharlika. I never said they should. They're not prevent. Well, if there's sorry if there's a misinterpretation, but they will not be requested or required. And it's not saying they should. They can. Not they should.
Yeah, and yeah, I think the sponsor missed my phrase, be allowed. Be allowed. I mean, if they want to invest, they are allowed.
They are allowed.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
yes,
that's
correct.
the
Okay.
that has been the consistent stand of the sponsor, Mr. President, from the interpellations. However, we are back to the worries of the members of both the systems, Mr. President, the government system, GSIS and the SSS. Because yun na nga, I mean, may talo ito eh. Meron din po itong talo. So, at saka this would be more aggressive than an investment or the MIC can use the fund for more aggressive, riskier investments.
I think all investments may talo, may panalo. Right? All investments. Hindi naman lahat, whether it's Maharlika or whatever they're investing in now. It's not, what we're talking about again is the pricing of risk and what are the returns, are the returns sufficient to compensate the GSIS and the SSS for the risk they're taking. Now, the Maharlika, again, I read it, does not change the investment goals. It does not dictate anything to any of our government funds. All we're saying is that they're not banned from investing in a fund that's dedicated to our infrastructure projects. That's all we're saying. It doesn't change their investment strategy. It doesn't. You know, they have a very established process for deciding on how they're going to use their funds. They've used it for many things. Na may talo at meron din panalo. and they've diversified their funds. So there's no difference. There's no these are it's up to them to decide what is an acceptable level of risk, and we've always had faith that the GSIS and the SSS they have the actuarial experts who can decide on this. They're the experts at this, and they've always used our funds judiciously, and I see no reason why they won't do so. They won't continue to do so.
So, Mr. President, I just want to make it of record that I join the concerns of the members of these systems about the riskier investments that the MIC would be allowed to make. And I join the calls for putting an ironclad prohibition, Mr. President, from these social security funds from being invested in this experimental Maharlika Investment Fund, Mr. President. Well, anyway, that's an expression of a position, Mr. President. And, Mr. President, on Section 7, is my understanding correct that the board, the MIC board, may increase the capitalization of the MIC to such an amount as may be necessary to attain the objectives of this act? So to any amount, so more than 500 billion, Mr. President? The board can do that?
Yes, it says here the board, upon recommendation and with approval of the bay, increase the capitalization of MIC.
So what was the purpose in stating the authorized capital stock in the law, Mr. President? Kung a mere board can change the amount, Mr. President?
That's the initial capitalization. That's why it was stated.
No, I think the
It
initial,
didn't say that there was it doesn't say that there was any limitations. This is I don't think it's a contradiction to this provision.
Section 7, Mr. President, what can the board increase? Is it the authorized capital stock of the corporation, Mr.
Yes.
President?
Authorized capital stock, yes.
Which is an amount mentioned in the law, Mr. President.
Yes.
So in effect, the board
That was the initial structure of the fund, and it's also mentioned here in the law that it gives them the authority to increase that capitalization as necessary to attain the objectives of this act.
Yes. So yes, in effect, Mr. President, allowing them to amend the law, Mr. President.
This is the law. This is the law. It's providing for this. This is part of the law. It's not amending it.
No, in
This is
effect,
the provision in the law.
yes, I know. It's the provision of the law gives the body, which is not part of the legislature, the power to change the amount stated in the law, which is an authorized capital stock of up to 500 billion pesos, Mr. President.
Yes.
So yan pala. Okay, so if that is the purpose, Mr. President, then we better look at another case of an undue and invalid delegation of legislative power, Mr. President. And I'd like to appeal to this body, Mr. President. Mag-ingat tayo sa ganon when we have a law and then parang I could see the latest trend nowadays, Mr. President, that we want to delegate to a certain person, a certain body, a certain administrative entity, the power to change what appears in the law. I mean, mag-ingat po tayo ron because in effect, we are delegating actually a legislative power to that person or body, Mr. President. Yes, Mr. President, for example, my staff has pointed out to me that Land Bank and DBP, they want also to increase their capitalization, but they are now, there are bills, so bills proposed to increase the capitalization, just like what we did sa Central Bank o sa BSP, Mr. President. So, mag-ingat lang po tayo dito po. Just an advice because although this may be law, the Constitution all of a sudden becomes involved, Mr. President, because of the concept of undue delegation of legislative power. Mr. President, unless the sponsor would like to react. More? No. Okay. On page 5, Mr. President, on Section 8, Corporate Powers. What is the purpose uh, for stating that the corporate seal shall be judicially noticed, Mr. President? Bakit why did we introduce this concept of judicial notice, Mr. President? Ang ibig sabihin yata, if I remember my procedural law, judicial notice, ibig sabihin nun, need not be need not be proven in court, Mr. President. So, why is that concept important here, Mr. President? The seal.
Yes. My understanding is that shall be judicially noticed means that
Need not be proven.
it means there without it basically means there will be no need for proof,
Yes.
as I understand it.
So no need to prove the seal in case of court proceedings. So yun po, okay. So
Yes.
so we highlighted that, Mr. President. It must be important. I do not know what's that. Why we need to state that, Mr. President. Of all things to be judicially noticed, it is the seal of the corporation, Mr. President. Normal. Baka, ano, may reason ba? Di ko alam eh, as a lawyer. Okay, Mr. President. Now, Mr. President, let us go to the third paragraph of Section 8. This is the compromise provision, Mr. President, which also worries me. Ito, I will read it into the records, Mr. President. Third paragraph, Section 8. The MIC may compromise or release in whole or in part any claim of or settled liability to the MIC, regardless of the amount involved, under such terms and conditions as may be prescribed by the board upon favorable recommendation of the advisory body to protect the interests of the MIC and the integrity of the MIF. What is the purpose of this paragraph, Mr. President? Because the MIC may compromise or may release a settled liability to the MIC, regardless of the amount. So settled liability na in favor of the MIC could be in billions of pesos and it can be settled by the MIC, Mr. President. Is that in the realm of the possible in interpreting this paragraph, Mr. President?
It is my understanding that these provisions are regular power of the GOCC. So even the SSS has similar provisions. So that's where that's where this originated. So even the SSS has similar provisions.
We will
Even central bank. This is the
central bank. We will need time to look at the SSS and the central bank provisions, Mr. President. Section 9, paragraph C, page 6. In functions of the Maharlika Investment Corporation, in carrying out its objectives and functions, the MIC shall, paragraph C, accept and manage investment mandates whose investment purpose is to increase income for development goals. Can we have a clearer statement, Mr. President, or an example of what this is, Mr. President?
Accept, it says here, and I'll
Accept-
state, accept and manage investment mandates
Mandates.
whose investment purpose is to increase income for development goals. When you talk about mandates, you talk about or perhaps investments, and it says here whose investment purpose is to increase input. I think that's a reiteration also of what we said earlier, which is that part of it is to part of the priorities of Maharlika is to make investments make investments which further our socio-economic agenda. So I think that's
But
reiterating what is it's perhaps detailing what is provided for. Again, if we're talking about the language, we can always say change the language to something. But
Yes.
my understanding of this is it says functions of Maharlika Investment. It's just it's outlining what the general mandate of Maharlika is.
Yes, Mr. President. We can only help if we understand what is the purpose of the paragraph or section, Mr. President. So this is about the function of the MIC, and it shall accept, i-simplify na lang natin, accept an investment mandate whose investment purpose is to increase income for development goals. So what does it mean, Mr. President? Or what do we want to mean, Mr. President? So we can help, Mr. President.
Maybe it's here investment mandates.
Ano ba yung
Perhaps joint ventures or investments that are deemed by our experts to be consistent with our development goals. At the same time, increasing income. Again, that's what I think it goes back to what the mandate, which is to generate income for the Maharlika which at the same time making investments that will further our development goals.
Okay. Yes, Mr. President, I think kasi bawat salita or entry, paragraph in a law must mean something because it serves a purpose. So if we can understand what we want to mean here, we can help actually clarify this paragraph. And then let's proceed to paragraph D of the same section, Mr. President. Ito, objective and function of the MIC ito. Develop and foster skills in finance, economics, risk mitigation, good governance, and other related areas consistent with the capacity and capabilities build up of human resources in the industry. So, siya po yung magti-training po ng mga tao dito po sa mga subject
I
matter.
think in any organization, any company, etc. Of course, human develop. Of course, you have your HR department. Human resource development is integral to the performance, and I think that what this paragraph refers to, of course, is part of what the MIC shall also accomplish is to develop these skills for internally, develop expertise. I think this is part of any corporate objective, which is to, of course, to develop initially there might be some, it's not, of course, the organization. Initially, there might be some improvements that need to be made, and that's why I think that's what this particular paragraph refers to. So again, that's what it says, develop and foster skills. So it seems a little self-explanatory.
So meaning to say, Mr. President, the MIC is considering hiring non-experts and then they will develop their expertise while serving in the MIC?
In any organization, not everyone's there's such thing as human resource development in any organization. I think it would be impractical to think that once we establish this, everyone has reached the pinnacle of their capabilities. I'd like to think that as this organization matures, there will be also improvement in the skill and talent of those who work for the Maharlika Corporation.